It is Tea Time Tuesday here. Gather around, time to talk some soccer. Zach Aldridge, Brandon Baylor, and our guy TR in with us, checking in early to get this morning started. And sigh of relief, I think that's what the majority of us are feeling right now.
Yeah, some of us not feeling that type of way. You see the orange here, but we'll get to that in a little bit. The red, white, and blue historically undefeated when it comes to playing Portugal in all their meetings. But early this morning, like you mentioned, let's just say survival mode kicked in. They still have a pulse when it comes to the World Cup. Early this morning, about 3 a.m., if you guys had a chance to watch it, was pretty, at least, to get through. They did just enough to get to the knockout stage despite having 17 total shots. Only one you can classify as a big chance. The Americans only put up 6 total shots on the target there. Portugal's attack was non-existent until the end of the second half, where the team mustered up their best chance of the game, but of course, ended in a 0-0 draw there. It's only the second time in history of the World Cup that the U.S. has failed to win their group. Here's the captain, Alex Morgan, kind of putting a bow on maybe a performance.
I think most fans are used to seeing this team dominate, especially against teams that are ranked, below 20th in the world. What would you say to fans who might be concerned about, in particular, this team's struggle to score?
Yeah, honestly, we missed some big chances. I did as well. We should have put some in the back of the net, and we didn't. We own that. We're not happy with the performance we put out there, but at the same time, we're moving on. This isn't the first time in my career that we've moved on second in the group. And so now it's coming back together, knowing that we have all of the pieces to make it all the way, but putting that all together.
You hear it there in Alex Morgan's comments there, not happy, but of course happy to move on. Of course, runner-ups in that Group G to the Netherlands, of course, that dominated Vietnam 7-0. But kind of put a bow on this for us, TR, because we saw that matchup against the Netherlands last week, and then this morning against Portugal. How did they perform to you in your eyes?
A very underwhelming performance, nervy, panic-induced almost as well. Played with hesitance, and if it wasn't for the post in stoppage time, this could have been the worst ever defeat in World Cup history if the U.S. would not have made it out of the group. They did in second place after the Netherlands. Yeah, Oranje boven. We don't only have Max Verstappen, we have the winner of the Women's Tour de France. We got, obviously the Dutch national team. Women's
USA pictures right
winning
here,
the group, I know. And as you can see by the reaction of those players, they expected more. And we didn't see more after the game against the Netherlands when some of the flaws appeared. A few improvements in the attack. Some changes by the head coach, who still doesn't know, I think, what his best 11 is. Midfield continues to struggle, and there are answers for that. But tactically, Vlatko has been outcoached in the last 2 games as well, against the 5-man midfield and then a diamond midfield against Portugal. There's a pass map that will really explain this a little bit better, as you can see. On that left side, that's Portugal. And as you can see there, the dominant in that midfield triangle. Combination play. They dominated possession, and they also dominated in passing, 218 versus 163. If you see that right side, which is the U.S., very predictable, dominant on that left side, and very stretched. As you can see, players are not very well balanced on both sides of the ball. And, more possession, more passes, and the U.S. very disconnected in this graph here. So now if you are Vlatko, the head coach, what do you do when you play Sweden? And for 99% sure, they play Sweden again for the 6th time in the World Cup. Haven't fared well in their last game in the Olympics, but have gotten the better of Sweden in the last few World Cup matches as well. Midfield needs to improve. I say right now, you're playing Ertz as a defender, where her best position is number 6. That allows you then to push Horan forward as well. You got to insert Rotman, and I really got a question mark about Alex Morgan right now. Can you find a way for Sanchez to enter as a starter, because she's a combination player. She likes to possess as a number 10 or even a false line to solve your problems going forward, obviously. The fewest points in group play in the history of the World Cup for the women as well. In saying that, they only conceded 1. So a good defense in the knockout stages can get you far. The players are saying, we're okay. We've been here before, and there's still leadership, but this team is slowly shifting towards a younger generation that didn't seem to have the same fire in their belly, so to speak, as we've seen from previous teams as well. It will be a great matchup against Sweden and potentially Japan. And by the way, Japan is the only team with a perfect record yet in the World Cup, which means, yes, for the bookies, the U.S. is still a favorite, but I say right now there's 8 or 9 contenders because the margin becomes smaller and smaller. The rest of the world is catching up. I think there's 8 or 9 contenders that could win this World Cup. I don't think the U.S. is a favorite anymore.
You mentioned the situation for the U.S. and the lack of points being scored. Only 1 win here in group play for the first time in tournament history for the Americans. Then you look at moving forward. Rose Lavelle will not be able to play because of yellow card accumulation. Put on your head coach hat here in the situation. Is there any way that the Americans can kind of just flip the switch and start to look like the top team in the world?
Yeah, and that's a great point, obviously, because it was the number 1 team against the 21st team in Portugal. Now you get Sweden. It's ranked number 3rd. I'm not so sure if these FIFA rankings currently, are the way they should be, because there's some exceptional teams, obviously, in this World Cup, the U.S. still being one of the favorites. I say that Andonovski, the coach, needs to make some tactical adjustments. They can't get a grip on the midfield, which has been the strength. So I say again, Ertz into midfield. I know you're playing her as a defender right now due to the fact that you want to have some stability. And again, the opponent's only scored 1 goal in 3 games. But in order to get your midfield dominant again, Ertz is important, pushing Horan in a forward position. And without Lavelle, this might be a chance to get a technical combination player. Only twice were there sequences of 5 or more passes into the final third. The other teams have dominated midfield. I think that's important. And you need to make a tweak up front for a team that's struggling right now offensively. I say Trinity Rodman as a 9 or still as a wide player out of a 4-3-3 would suit that bill.
You mentioned, of course, losing Lavelle. That's a big piece there. But also, you also said that 8 or 9 teams could be in that favorite conversation outside of the U.S. Big picture here from a scale of 1 to 10. If you're a fan, should you be worried at this point for what we've seen these past 2 games leading up? What's ahead?
Yes, because there were patterns established prior to the World Cup where we struggled as well. I don't think that Vlatko Andonovski knows his best starting 11, which is not good, by the way, going into the knockout stages. I think his in-game management needs to be better. 1 sub against the Netherlands, 2 only, 3 against Portugal. And it's important that you have players, which he does on the bench, that are difference makers coming in. And you might have to make some hard decisions regarding 1 or 2 veterans that are really underperforming, Alex Morgan being one of them.
Question marks we're not used to or accustomed to when we're talking the women's national team as they move on to Sweden. So we'll see how that pans out. TR, appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
The conversation will continue. Our friends from the Golazo Network chimed in on the results after that match earlier this morning. Of course, 0-0 draw between the U.S. and Portugal. All you got to do is stream them 24/7. Catch them on the CBS Sports app or Paramount+.